Welcome to the Chief Joyce Dugan Cultural Arts Center on the Cherokee Central Schools campus. Our appreciation to Jay Winchester and Cherokee Central Schools, Chris McCoy from the Tribal Communications Office, Lisa Frady from Destination Marketing Department, Mike Parker from the Commerce Division, and Doug Pheasant and the officers of the Cherokee Police Department. We would also like to thank the Cherokee County Snowbird candidates for agreeing to participate tonight. Candidates for Cherokee County Snowbird Community Tribal Council seats are Adam Ochacha, Bucky Brown, Sherry Smoker, and Janelle Rattler. On behalf of the event organizers, we wish each of you well in your campaigns. There will be no opening statements from the candidates. The moderator will sit at a table with a timekeeper. If 3 or more candidates are in attendance, a random draw will determine the order of questioning. We took care of that just a moment ago. The moderator is the only person who will be asking questions, and the questions will be from a predetermined list compiled by the Cherokee One Feather based on community feedback. The public via social media, phone, email, and the Cherokee One Feather staff were the sources for the questions. There will also be a table and staff available for community members to write in specific questions regarding their communities or other tribal issues at the event. Community questions will be vetted for appropriateness by members of the COF editorial board prior to being brought to and read by the moderator. The candidates are not to respond to any verbal questions offered by the audience during the debate. We also ask that the audience not react audibly to any comments made by the candidates in the interest of time and in respect of the hosts and the candidates. There will be time at the end of the session for audience appreciation for the candidates. The moderator will recognize a specific candidate to address a question. Once a question is asked, each question will have 3 minutes to respond. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond. Each candidate will be allowed an additional 1 minute for any follow-up that they want to address. Once the formal questionings are concluded, vetted community questions will be asked. Up to 8 community questions will be asked in the 3-minute, 1-minute rebuttal structure. After questioning, the candidates will have 5 minutes each to make closing statements. When all candidates have concluded their closing statements, the moderator will thank the candidates and close the debate. Those candidates who could not or chose not to attend were invited to submit a brief statement to be read in their absence. No notes were submitted, except we did get an email from Janelle. She said she was with the seniors at the senior games and would not be able to attend. We will start the formal questions now. The first question will go to Adam. Adam, the question is, do you think people incarcerated on drug charges should be required to do community service cleanup while they are in jail, including syringe pickup?
Hello, just make sure the microphone's working. First, the judge orders community service in lieu of incarceration. The community service is monitored by the probation office. Second, the individuals are incarcerated because they're a danger to the community at large. I don't disagree totally with allowing the incarcerated getting out there, but I think there poses a lot of issues that we've had discussions on when it comes to insurance and manpower. I believe that, that community service is a way to allow them to participate in other things, so they don't get incarcerated. But once they are incarcerated, I think it should be rewards based, and to allow them to, the ones that are incarcerated that are on good behavior, that they be allowed to go out and do more things besides just staying in jail. I know that's some of the conversations I've had with a lot of them that are incarcerated. There's not a lot to do, which there shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a fun place for them to go. You should want to deter them from wanting to go to, to jail. But really, that's my best understanding of it. And if it's a budgetary issue or insurance, I think that we really need to look into that a lot more. I think if counties and state departments can allow their inmates to go out and pick up in the public, then I believe we should look at that a lot harder. And depending on manpower or the type of monetary issue it may be, that we exercise that and try to work with the probation's office as well as the court on trying to pursue that for community service and the syringe pickup, because a lot of times those are some of the issues that we have with some of our tribal programs, is the issue of picking up dirty needles. And I don't know if that's a good thing for having our incarcerated people having to do that without the proper protection. So just make sure all of our avenues and things are covered before we even move that way. But I think it's a conversation with the court. But my personal opinion is I think we should look into it very hard.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, same question.
Sure, everybody. I want to thank each and every one that's come out this evening. First of all, I want to thank Robin and the One Feather for having this debate, and I think it's very valuable and a lot of information that can be distributed out to our public. And I just thank each and every one of you for being here. My answer to the question is yes, I think they should, and I think any punishment, whether they're on probation or anything, as long as the probation officer is overseeing it, or whatever and later on some of the other questions too, I'll be I think we need stiffer penalties, and I just think that we anything that's punishable, and we got to put a stop to it, and whichever way that we can, that's going to be best for the tribe.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, same question.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I think all community involvement would be a positive. Looking at your community through a lens of doing community service gives those incarcerated a different outlook on things. And I feel like those people are lost anyway, and it's our duty to reach out to help those in need. So, instead of being so quick to jump and criminalize everyone, we all make mistakes through life, and that doesn't mean we're not worthy. We should always give them a chance to redeem themselves in that situation. As far as the syringes, I think that needs to be done a little differently, because it is a health hazard. So, maybe have somebody on the crew that can do that. But I think we should employ our incarcerated and let them see a different outlook on life. Maybe it would change their direction instead of just criminalizing them and throwing them to the wolves and saying they're not worthy. I don't see that.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, you have 1 minute for any additional comment.
No additional comments at this time.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, you have 1 minute for additional comment.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, I'm just old school on this, and I think that we have a lot of, we've seen it here on the reservation. We had a lot of deaths, and still continue to see it. There at one time, it seemed like in council we was going just every week because of some overdosing, but if we don't put a stop to this, it's going to run rapid here on the reservation. If we don't put a stop to it coming in to the reservation, it's going to be a disaster for our children and on down, through the times to come.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute.
Well, there will be case-by-case analysis on those. However, I feel like we should reach out to everyone, whether they're incarcerated. They're all enrolled members of our tribe, and we should try to reach out to them if they need us. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Sherry. Next question goes to you, Bucky. What constitutes a reasonable return on investment for economic diversification opportunities? Please speak to specific strategies and include your thoughts on ecotourism, solar, and wind power. Okay,
our return on investment, I'm going to use the Cherokee Valley River Casino for an example. When it first came out, a lot of people wasn't for it. They didn't think it was going to last. They didn't think it was going to make it. And now it's become one of our casino that's doing out in the forefront. And I think we didn't really know how it was going to happen or how the return was going to be. But now it's become one of our better, one of our better returns. And also, as far as the ecotourism, the solar, we have the solar panels over there now, and we're still waiting, to see how that's going to turn out. And which I think it looks pretty good. We have a big variety of it. We still yet, a lot of people don't really understand it, but I think in the future it's going to really benefit us pretty good.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Okay, I'll use the solar power as I just think the investment in solar power would serve our tribe well. This money saved by our tribal members would be financial as well as employing independents from the big power companies. And I don't think they have a lot of regard for our elders in their homes when they're not paying their power bill and they cut it off. They've got to have a breathing machine or other machines that are health-wise. You know, that puts them in danger. So if we could gain our independence from them, then we could gain our independence from other ways too. You know, we could diversify in different ways. I'd like to get a bingo in our community. I mean, the only one we've had is up here, but our communities need more jobs, more housing, and this would be a way of expanding. And so I think the solar power would be a good idea. I mean, ecotourism, it's vital in my communities.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. What constitutes a reasonable return on investment? To me, that's a very broad subject because you can look at your return in a couple different facets. You could look at it like Bucky's example was the Cherokee County Casino, which percentage-wise actually does better than the one up here in Cherokee, but it's a smaller facility. It's more of a day trip for our patrons, and I think it does very well for the size that it is and the location that it's in. As for ecotourism, that's something I've been talking about for the last 10 years. And some of the ways that we could look at ecotourism, one of them being it's specific to the bottled water. I think our water here in Western North Carolina is some of the best around, but yet we're not capitalizing on it because the way we do our Cherokee bottled water is, you know, there's a reason why it's not on the local shelves because it costs too much. We need to be able to drive the cost down to where it can compete with the other manufacturers such as Dasani and Aquafina and Deer Park, and so we can also tell our story through marketing it locally and then regionally and then nationally, hopefully. Looking at the 8A chapter for our LLCs, that's another way that I think we could pursue through our Gadua Land or LLC. And looking at bottled water, like I said, the resources are here. I just don't think we think outside the box enough. I think a lot of our forward thinking is mostly in casino industry, which is wonderful. But I think that some of the other tribes around us have jumped out there and started producing revenue that even outgains their gaming industry. And that's something that us as a tribe needs to start doing too, is taking a few more chances on our own resources. So we can do the hiking trails. The Fire Mountain Trail up here is doing very well. I think we need more of that. I think it don't all have to be here in Cherokee, that we can even use Graham County and Cherokee County as other venues for ecotourism. When we touch on a solar panel, that's something that I would like to see on every home. I think every elderly person should have it because the Penobscot that I visited up there, they have those on their low-income housing, and it really helps them because there's a lot of dark days up there during the wintertime that solar and wind actually helps them pursue because of the power outages that they have in certain parts of their communities. I think that would be very beneficial for us. But as for return on investment, like I said, it depends what the purchase is. I mean, if it's land issue, then if it's deeded property, that's something, if we don't develop it right away, and if it's something that we look to the future, then we could develop it and sell it back in pieces and double our return. So I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. 1 minute to follow up, Bucky.
I have no rebuttal on this.
Okay. Sherry, 1 minute. You good? And Adam, 1 minute.
Thanks. I just want to touch on one more thing. And I was touching on the solar power and the wind power. I think that's some other stuff. If you look at the county of Clay County, they have the panels all over the county, basically. That's something that we as a tribe could look to more, to try to develop power so we're not so dependent on the power companies. I think that's something that we can do more to offset more of our businesses like we did in Cherokee County. I think that one offsets the power cost about 13%, which is a couple $100,000 in return. So that's other things that we could do for this school system and a hospital and other venues that we have that serve the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Next question goes to Sherry. Sherry, do you support monthly per capita distribution? Let me repeat. Do you support monthly per capita disbursements as a means of universal basic income for tribal members?
Yes, I do. Many of my communities are on fixed incomes and depend on those monthly checks to survive, especially through the winter months. Because when in the winter, most of the jobs in our community are on layoffs. Those are seasonal ecotourism there. So without that monthly income, a lot of them would struggle through the winter months. So yes, it helps my communities.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
The per capita loan program, I do agree with it because I was one of the ones that voted for it. It does have a place to help our community members when it comes to income that may be lost, like Sherry spoke to. In our community, it's seasonal. Like up here, it is seasonal when it comes to restaurant business and other things. In Snowbird, it's the same way. The people that don't work at the casino or work for the tribe, they actually depend on waitressing and waitering and working in the kitchen and stuff. So they look at it as a form of a means to help their income. The only disadvantages to it is that the monthly distributions affect the members who receive disability or SSI. And I think if there's other ways that we could look into those disbursements to help out these individuals. I've spoken to a few members of the tribe that say that it's good for the most part, and there's a lot of negative to it too, because I think it enhances the drug problem that we have, but in a good sense, it helps the elderly out who receive those fixed incomes, that they can depend on that monthly income as a supplement to help them pay their bills and do the things they need. So there are some pros and cons to it, but like I said, I supported it when it came in because I felt that the people, could use it and it could help out in different scenarios. And like I said, but there's always a negative to everything. So, that's one of the negatives. And then, like I said, I know that we're doing everything we can to combat the drug issue, but I think it's a means to help them out as well.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Okay, at first I was in favor for seniors, and then we kind of, want to, hopefully that it didn't interrupt their SSI or any benefits they had in that form. But as times went on, it seems like our drug issue has gotten larger, and our employment has gotten, it's increased also. And I just feel like with monthly statements or monthly payments now, that it's not helping our people that much. And we just, you see our drug issue getting higher, our unemployment, not only just in our tribal positions, but in the state level too. People are quitting jobs, and they just won't hang on to jobs as well as like you should. And like Adam said, there's pros and cons to it, and if it could help our seniors, I'm all for it. And but our other people, like I said again, and I'll stay on this. Our drug issue is getting higher, and like I said, our unemployment or our employment is getting higher also.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute follow-up. Adam? And Bucky. All right. Next question goes to Adam. With substance use disorder being an increasingly significant concern for tribal members, should the tribe harshen punishments, continue as is, or move to decriminalize illicit drug use? How do we aid our young people in getting help without the ills of the criminal justice system?
I believe the tribe should continue as is and add a wellness court, because most substance abuse stems from self-medicating and underlying mental health issues. I think our court system does good overall, but I believe there's a lot of little pieces that could help them out. And I know that we've actually been to a few other reservations that have wellness court, and I think our rehabilitation center in Snowbird helps some. And I think there needs to be more long-term care for these people so they're not being put back out into the same scenarios that once they came from. I mean, I know they can stay there up to a year, but sometimes people may need even more than that. So I think from the mental issues, there's still a lot of work that can be done, but I think it's a two-part in trying to solve this problem. And one is through mental health, and the other one's through prescription abuse. And I think there's some other avenues that we're looking at. Like I said, we're looking at other studies through the hospital, through our PHHS, as well as other tribes. And so it's not just our tribal problem, it's actually a national problem that I believe that we could help the court system as well as our programs in trying to better combat this issue.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Again, I'll say that, I support stiffer penalties. I feel like our courthouses, they're full all the time. It seems like with the same repeaters. And we've got to do something and come up with a way that we can stop the drugs. And a lot of it is just not on the reservation. A lot of it is coming into the reservation. And that's what we've got to stop. And, but like I said before, I am for stiffer penalties. As far as our kids, I think that more counseling, more counselors is needed. The kids, they seem like all they're looking for is their per cap, and they can't wait to, some even want to quit school or that way. Even, if we had to hire more officers in our school system, and I'll say this and I'll continue saying it, to say we have got to come up with a way to stop this. And there's children that are dying. There's people that are dying, and it's going to continue this way if we don't put a stop to it.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Okay. For far too long, those that fall are often persecuted and isolated. We should do more to reform our tribal members that have fallen. Reach out a hand to them, do the rehab. It's our place to help those that need it. We must not fail them. And we come from generations of traumatized people from the way our lives have been. So we can't just dismiss them and say they don't count because they've been convicted of a crime or in trouble. We have to reach out to those people. The rehab center is very successful, I think. We were very welcoming to those people in our community, and I think they responded well. We enjoyed them when they came to help at our dinners. Those are people too, and we can't lose sight of that.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, 1 minute.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on that the inmates at the jail, they suffer through the same thing. And I think what I was trying to touch on a while ago was trying to provide more educational opportunities for them to help them with their the children here in the school systems, better give them resources to understanding what types of, what types of drugs or whatever that may be, brought up to, in a sense that, they'll be peer pressured. And I believe once we get to the individuals that are incarcerated, I think that they need help as well as the ones in the rehab. Just a word of encouragement, because that's the Cherokee way.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think more counseling, and I think that, you got to ask yourself, is building more rehabs the answer? And, I'm in full support of these people getting help, but we've got to stop. The issue is at hand, and that's to stop the drugs by itself. And, we can keep building more rehabs, but if we don't put a stop in there, we're going to just have rehabs all over the place. And I just feel like, and I'm not saying, degrade these people, give them the respect and give them the help that they need. But I just feel that if we put more, and, the manpower is here on the reservation. We have 80 to 100 employee police staff, and I just feel that that's where we need to put a stop to it.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute.
I just feel like if we're going to tackle the opioid issue, we're going to have to go after the big pharmaceuticals. The people that are caught up in all this, it's lives ruined, people dying. Thousands of people have died off opioids, but they're legal. Doctors can prescribe them every day, and they do. So until you get a doctor to agree with what you're saying, that there should be no more drugs, no more opioids, no more, and these are legal drugs that are prescribed by doctors, and it has a hold on our society as a whole, and we're going down with it. So, yeah, we need to stop it, but you're going to have to go after big pharmaceuticals. And that's the only way I see out of it.
Thank you, Sherry. Next question is for Bucky. Bucky, do you think someone duly convicted of a felony should be allowed to run for tribal office?
No, I'm just like in our state elections or in any other election, if you have charges or anything, you're not allowed. And I'm just going to say just a flat no.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Okay. Okay. Many in the past have held office and been convicted felons, and they were good candidates, and they did good for their communities. They served well. So, I think it should be on a case-by-case basis. It all depends on what the felony is and what the crime was. But we can't be labeling saying, no, you can't run, and you can run, and you can't run. That's not how we should be doing it, I don't think. If they want to serve and they have the willingness to give for their communities, then I don't see any problem with it. Unless they're a murderer, then I'm sure that the law will not allow for that,
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
No, I do not believe that someone convicted of a felony should be allowed to run for tribal office. The charter clearly states that anyone that has a felony offense is not eligible to run for office. And I think, what are we really teaching our children? I believe in second chances, but I don't think this is one of the roads that we probably need to go down. I think if it's going to be changed, then it needs to be changed at the level of our governing document. So, and if the people feels that that convicted felons should have that right, then I believe then that should be held to them, not me personally, but I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute response. And Sherry, 1 minute response. Yeah. And Adam, any additional? Next question is for Sherry. What is your stance on discontinuing drug testing of EBCI tribal employees?
Well, that's above my pay grade, but I think we have to help employ all members. I don't know what the limitations and restrictions are as far as tribal jobs go. However, I want to get everybody a job, whether they can, there are certain drugs that would be unacceptable in certain job scenes. So, that I would have to say, I think we should get everybody a job. Even if they're on drugs, let's get them a job. Maybe they'll keep their mind off the drugs for a little while and work.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Drug testing EBCI employees should be discontinued unless the tribe has reasonable suspicion. Currently, the prospective employees are drug tested, but at random. I know after talking to some of the employees that get random drug tested, it's like the same names come up quite often, and I don't know if it's the system or what it is, but those same ones, to me, I think that's I guess it's overreaching, because you would think that a random would include majority of the programs, but it seems like the same individuals in each program comes up for the drug test. So I think that unless there's reasonable suspicion, then I think that the tribe should have that right to exercise a random drug test based on that.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I have children. I do have grandchildren now, and I would, if they lived around me, I would probably still feel the same way. But I've tried to educate my kids all my life about drugs and I've never been a drug addict or anything, but I've tried to teach my kids to stay away from things like that. And then now, if we backed off from that, and I just feel like we're looking at a society now that we've got to fulfill especially in the tribe. We have to have a certain number that has to be in each program, and but I just feel like we need to stick with the drug testing, and because the drugs is anymore, they're getting harsher, and they're getting more. So I still believe in the drug policy.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute response. And Adam and Bucky. Next question goes to Adam. And Adam, if the Catawba Indian Nation gets approved for a casino, what are your plans to help with any lost revenue?
Some of the plans that I look at, just in case if there's any threats, and it's not just the Catawba, it's Georgia gaming, Tennessee gaming, a lot of other different threats to our gaming industry. So some of the ways to offset to make sure that our tribal programs stay whole is looking at the LLC model that I explained earlier when it goes to using our resources to create a better tourism here in Cherokee. Something like the way it was in the 50s and 60s and 70s, to where everybody wanted to come to Cherokee because of the history and the culture that we have here. And I think we should expand on that even into Robbinsville because of the traffic flow that comes down there just for the Dragon at Deals Gap and also over there at Cherokee Skyway. I think there's so much opportunity out there that this tribe could pursue, such as a hotel, Cherokee branded hotels that we could put up in each of these counties or across the country, same way as Marriott or Hilton started out. Cherokee in itself is a brand that everybody recognizes. And for us to better use that and to make it, for more revenue purposes, I think that's some of the things that this tribe needs to look into to taking a few chances on. I mean, hiring the right people to come in and give us the numbers and looking at the traffic counts, the traffic flows. I just believe that if the Catawba were to get their casino down there, our numbers, would hurt, but nobody really knows for sure how much. But I mean, everybody knows that if there's another casino built somewhere close to the vicinity of ours, then it's going to take away some. But our industry is so strong now. I mean, our hospitality ranks the highest out of all the Harris brands. So I think that overall they may try these other casinos out, but as long as we keep pursuing our customers and provide them the things that they need, the amenities that they want here, then that's the things that keep them coming back here. The only issue is when they come here, they only come for 3 to 4 days. We want them to stay for weeks. We want a family to come in and stay a week so that when their husband or wife is playing on the machines, then the children and stuff have other things to do. So when we're looking at like adventure parks, we're looking at the Fire Mountain trails, we're looking at all these different other things, but it's like when it comes to government making decisions, everything moves at snail's pace. So I think with the LOC being able to act on some of these things a lot faster than everything operates in the government, to me that's the best way to capitalize on lost income when it comes to gaming.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I think moving forward with projects that are on the floor to diversify our income, and we have several projects now, and they're big money. I think the revenue will be, we'll see a tremendous increase in our revenue, but I think just moving, if the projects that are on the floor now, and if we can get them moving, get them approved, and get them on the floor, and like I said earlier, the Murphy Casino, nobody wanted it, but look how it's turned out pretty good.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Okay. I think we've expected other gaming to start, coming into our area, and we were warned about it years ago, but like Adam says, everything goes at a snail's pace, so here we are with all our eggs in virtually one basket. We can diversify pretty easily. It just takes a little effort from everybody collaboratively working together. Like the bingo and Snowbird. We also have had a wood plant. The old Stanley plant just closed down again. If we could get some kind of maybe the wood carvers or some type of crafter in the wood, we could open that as a plant, and that would be jobs and revenue for our tribe. There would be ways if we just looked into it and sought after it. There are ways out there. It's just we've all been looking through tunnel vision at the casino for what it brings us, and now we've been caught. So I'm hoping that we'd be able to bring Snowbird back and give a lot to the tribe with what we can bring to the people. You know, if we get that chance, that is, if it's not 5 to 7 years down the road.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, 1 minute for response.
One thing I did want to add to that is, I just spoke of what the tribe can do. There's things that our tribal casino gaming enterprise can look at as well, and that's other opportunities out there in the nation. I know that Porch and Seminole and some of the other tribes are buying up businesses in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Las Vegas. So with the right studies and with the right numbers, I think that's something that this tribe could look at too, going into commercial gaming, not just tribal compact gaming, but I think that's other avenues for lost revenue.
Thank you, Adam. Becky?
Yeah, just adding to, our tribe is I think it was sustaining pretty well, and I think we're not making leaps and bounds, tremendously, but I think we're moving forward, but it may be at a slow pace, but at least we're moving forward. And I just think that diversifying, getting, like I said again, these projects going, and these projects seem to be profitable for us, and I just look forward to them getting on the ground.
Thank you, Becky. Sherry? 1 minute? Okay. Becky, the next question is yours. What are your thoughts on cannabis and its economic potential for the EBCI?
I've talked to a lot of our seniors, and I just think there's not enough info that's out there. They say that, they say that just marijuana is just it's a gateway drug. And I think that there's just not enough info that's been told to them and explained to them, and between medical and recreational. And I just think there needs to be a lot more on the tribe, and financially even, it needs to be. We need a lot more studying done on that.
Thank you, Becky. Sherry?
Okay. Well, I've seen a lot of documentaries that exclusively talk about this. I think it was a tribe out in Nevada that had tried this, and it's $1 billion industry, and it was a quick turnaround for them. The Paiutes were, they weren't very high up on their income, and when they went into this type of diversifying for their tribe, it made big returns for them, billions of dollars in just a little while. However, I think all things should be discussed and considered, maybe put to a referendum to vote for the people, But it's if we're running out of casino money, or it's going to be taken off the casino money with these other gaming casinos, we're going to have to look at ways of diversifying. And this is a $1 billion industry, so it would bring a lot of money. It just takes a little discussion and consideration, I guess.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. Cannabis is a growing business opportunity for the tribe, and with the 2014 Farm Bill, the tribe could enter into this $800 million industry. Now, in saying that, I'm not saying legalize all forms of cannabis. I'm saying that hemp is already a form of cannabis that's legal here in North Carolina. In North Carolina, it's sitting on the state legislature for legalization here in this state as well, which I don't know for sure if it'll pass, but I think we're kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to hemp, because hemp has so many different uses. And I believe with the agriculture and the land base that we have here, that's something that with tobacco that's went out of here, that's another form of crop that could be grown. Now, I do agree with medicinal. I have a lot of friends on the service side that have PTSD, and the medicinal side of cannabis is a real help to them, as well as epilepsy. So I think we keep pursuing and doing our studies and doing our due diligence as a tribe to make sure that we're involved in this type of industry. But like I said, coming from Snowbird, I have a lot of churchgoers that go, and they don't believe in the recreational side of it. And I think that's the educational piece that needs to keep being put out there on a better understanding the difference in what cannabis is, and it comes from hemp and the marijuana side. So, and yes, and Bucky's correct. That's the interpretation of it as being a gateway drug. But like I said, I'm not saying go full-fledged. I think that this tribe needs to take baby steps with it, but there's plenty of opportunity in hemp that is legal. I think we could, I believe we're growing an acre of it down there on Gadul Fields through our ag department and just seeing how it grows. And as far as I know, it's doing very well. So I think we start expanding on that the same way corn was produced when the petroleum prices started going up and everybody was starting to farm corn and doing the ethanol. I think hemp is another industry that this tribe could really look into to offset a lot of our needs, so through levy and other things. I know that CBD is a big thing that comes from this, and a lot of ailments are cured, not cured, but helps with the people and some of their ailments that they have.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute. Okay. Sherry, 1 minute. Adam. All right. Next question goes to Sherry. Are you comfortable with the current levels of transparency in government? Do you support public access to all government budgets and procedural documents?
Well, I've seen a lot of movement on documents through the tribe recently. Some of these proposals carry restrictions, a lot of restrictions on them, so we must always study the wording of these new laws, codes, constitutions, documents, etc. However, all the documents cannot be considered for approval in an election year. So I was kind of surprised that we had two tribal documents trying to be passed through this year, and it was an election year. But, I think there should be complete transparency. That way there's accountability from the people through that transparency.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Oh, let's make sure we're still on. Yes, because right now all of Budget Council, Tribal Council, and the work sessions are aired on Channel 28, and they're streamed further in Cherokee Code 132-12. The outlines what matters are declared public information. I think one of the first things I did in becoming the chairman was to allow another day for a request for time, which would allow the public to comment on certain issues that the tribe was bringing forth through tribal council or through budget council. And there's been a lot of good conversation through that, and it allows the people the opportunity to speak freely compared to on tribal council day, which is restricted under the debate clause, which allows council members a certain 5 minutes. Some of the other things that I would like to see that provides true transparency for this tribe is that we vet a lot of these resolutions and ordinances before they actually hit the floor. Because to me, it's kind of like whenever they hit the floor, then if there's no true resolve or if we're in election year, a lot of the major issues basically just get tabled and carried on until we go through multiple work sessions, and then we still really don't come up to a full resolve. I think if we can get a lot of that done down in committee the way it's done at the state and the federal level, then a lot of the conversations can already be done before it actually comes to the floor for a vote. But any other ideas, like I said, that was one of the main ones that had been talked about for years about opening another day for public comment, and I think it's really went well.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
I think that some things transparent, or actually there's three things, and one is, some things that comes into council, it's private. And then you've got other things like services to the community that need to be transparent, that need to let the community know what's going on. And then there's the other side of the tribal. We have documents, we have bids, contracts, and stuff that don't need to be spreaded out, because you've got people all over the country that can, they hear our contracts, they hear numbers, and so some of that they don't need to be transparent. But and we just kind of, we got to kind of look out and watch out for that.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute follow-up. Adam? All right. Bucky, any additional? All right, Adam, the next question is yours. Have you read the recently proposed Constitution? Specifically, what is good and what is not about the document? That's you, Adam.
Thank you. Yes, I read the proposed Constitution. The judicial branch does need to be a third branch of government, but I don't agree with how it was totally going to be, implemented as a third branch. And, I don't believe that just because the Constitution isn't coming for a vote, that it's not a dead issue. I think that we still continue to work on the Constitution, but in the meantime, that we strengthen the charter, and the charter that we can add the judicial branch as a third branch of government by a referendum vote to strengthen the charter and the different things. So if it's the issues of 3 branches of government, if it's the term limits, if it's a lot of the main issues that were coming up, I think that those could probably be voted on a lot quicker than the whole document as a whole in the Constitution. Just talking to a lot of the community members, there was a lot of pros and cons with the way the Constitution was written, and so I think, you know, that not go back to the drawing board, but just continue to work on that Constitution moving forward. But I do agree with the Constitution.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yes, I do support the Constitution. I think we need it, have read it. There's a lot of issues in there that's not completed, that need to be finalized. I'll give you an instance. For one, is the age for running for council. Some may have a different opinion on what the age limit should be. Also, community officers. I think there's a part in there that says if the vice chief and the chief, something was to happen to them, it goes back to your community. Some communities have non-enrolled, and you know, there's issues like that needs to be looked at.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Okay. There was some wording in it that I wasn't exactly in agreement with. Our community meeting that we had with the panel that was writing the Constitution asked for our feedback. And every time we'd stand up and give a little feedback on some of the things, the issues they had written, we were just dismissed and tried to convince that they had the right way or the right idea going. So it wasn't really looking for feedback. It was more like trying to sell it to us. And so a lot of my community members weren't too happy with that, because when you come asking us for feedback, we like to give it, you know. So they didn't take any of our ideas and implement them into the Constitution. So I feel like this document doesn't cover every single enrolled member in this tribe. We weren't all in agreement on certain things, so there was just certain people making the, you know, Constitution, and they weren't taking the word of these communities they were going to about how to adjust things. So, you know, like he said, it's going to need a little work.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, any additional follow-up on that?
No, the only one I wanted to touch base on too was the age requirements and that's some of the conversation we had in council. So there's still plenty of archived meetings that we had on the Constitution that I think the public could actually go back and listen to. But on my Constitution alone, there was a few places for red marks that I felt that needed to have more discussion. But that was some of the conversation that we had in the township that I serve. Was the feedback from the community, and it wasn't really pushed forward, and they didn't look for any changes or any amendments. It was basically just the same way it was presented to them.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like I said, there's a lot of work that still need to go on with it, and I would support that it be passed in sections. You know, if we, not pass the whole thing, because you got as many communities as we have, and to get all the input. But we do need to, get on with the Constitution. But I do feel like it might be benefiting to us to pass it in sections.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, you have a minute follow-up? Okay. Next question goes to Bucky. Bucky, how do you change the EBCI working climate and environment so that there is no fear of political retaliation?
I think our policies need to be put in place, and they need to be monitored. Let me see, is that the right one you're on? What number is that?
I don't have my numbered, Bucky, but the question is, again, how do you change the EBCI working climate and environment so that there is no fear of political retaliation?
Okay, I think it's policies, and make sure that policy is in place, and we've experienced that, and I just think that we've got something in place now that would never happen again.
Thank you, Bucky. Just for clarification, that's the second debate where the number has come up. The questions went out to all people, all the public, and they were numbered. So when the candidates are responding, they may be referring to a specific number that I don't have here. So I just want to make that clarification. There's not anything going on there. It's just that was a number that we assigned to it. So Sherry, same question.
Okay. From what I understand, HR has rules on this already, but I don't think there's anywhere in code does it state that a person has a right to that job title for life. Nowhere in the world do you get that assurance, so I don't think it should be written into law or code or anything that someone's entitled to keep a job for their lifetime. I feel like there's a lot of people in our tribe that want to work. And if we start handing out entitlements to each person to hold a job title for the rest of their life, then we're going to have a lot of unemployed people.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. Tribal Council strengthened the employment law back in 2016 with the Retaliatory Employment Discrimination Act, and in 2018 with the addition of the Employee Bill of Rights and Stability and Protection of Employee Code. I think those provisions were put into place to better help protect the employees anytime there's a changeover in administration. I know in the past it's always been, there are certain positions that are appointed, so those naturally are going to be some of the ones, depending on who becomes the executives or whatever, they'll bring in their own cabinet. But other than that, I think the employees that are director level and below should be protected by some type of policy, which I don't know where that sound's coming from.
Yeah, I'm having the same problem you did,
okay.
Adam. We're having cell phone issues, but
No, it's okay.
please continue.
But yeah, I just want to touch base on a lot of that. I think that our tribal employees who work very hard for this tribe to provide all of these different programs for our children and our elderly need to have that type of assurance and protection that if they're going to go and get their schooling and if they're going to go and do the things that they're supposed to do and they come back and get hired on their own merit, that they shouldn't have to worry about any type of retaliation depending on who they vote for or whatever. I know that's always been the assumption over the years. But as a service member, I believe in protection of rights, especially when it comes to our employees. But granted, like I said, I don't disagree that there's certain positions that are appointed that the individual shouldn't feel like they are there forever. I mean, if depending on the executive that comes in, if they like them, then they keep them. If they don't, then they bring in their own cabinet. But I don't know if just the policy itself is strong enough. I know we still have the Bill of Rights and everything, but to me, maybe looking at the idea of putting it back into code, the policy. I know sometimes it's hard to change when it's in policy compared to code. At least now, while it's in policy, the HR department has the ability to be able to make changes to it. But I don't know, like I said, moving forward, I don't know if it was better as a portion of the code or if it's better the way it is currently. So that's something I really want to get into and research and probably have more discussion with our HR department.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute follow-up. And Sherry, 1 minute. And Adam. All right, next question is for Sherry. Sherry, what would you do to improve or balance housing opportunities for tribal members and needed workforce?
Well, I've thought about this. We could partner with other entities to create revenue to deploy or start businesses in our small communities. Tribal housing has been scarce in my community. This will be one of my first initiatives to work towards housing for our communities. Our jobs are also in scarce. The job economy in our community in Snowbird is zilch now. We have no manufacturing. The only thing they have is restaurants, and that's just seasonal, So we don't have any full-time, year-round employment there. So I want to start working on that first thing if I get the opportunity.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
I believe the balance between housing opportunities for tribal members and workforce housing should be about 60-40, split respectively. If housing cannot fill the 60% with tribal members, then we need to offer it to workforce. And I'm speaking of the casinos and the expansions that we're talking about here in Cherokee as well as Cherokee County. I know that we run into a lot of issues up here on providing homes or workforce housing for individuals coming in. But the housing need definitely is something that needs to be worked with a little bit through the process. I know there's some hurdles that we have to jump anytime an individual goes and puts in for a home. There's not enough apartment rentals for, our tribal members. So I think expanding on that is definitely first and foremost. But when it comes to individuals' homes, I think it's averaging about 2 years. And I believe there's a lot of bottlenecks within our current system that I believe that we can streamline it a little bit better when it comes to surveying. So, when we recruit and try to tell our kids, what are things that they need to pursue when they get out of high school, a lot of the jobs that basically are kind of scarce here on the boundary is some of the ones that we need the most, which in surveying, we need plumbers, we need carpenters, we need a lot of other different things that some of the school systems have gone away from when it comes to individual skills. I think everybody's pushing for, 4-year degrees and everything, but what I'm afraid of is what's going to happen is that we keep telling all our children to keep going and getting these 4-year degrees, and they don't have a whole lot to come back to. They basically come back to frontline employment when we should really have industry that, allows them to come back into management. So to allow for the opportunity for workforce housing and then make Cherokee or any of our parcels on the boundary more, more welcomed is to allow other people from the outside to look at it as well. It's like, I'll go work at the casino, because our employment rates for our tribal members is very low when it comes to our casino industry. And I don't know if it's just a lot of people don't like it, or if it's the point system, or what it may be, but I know them employees up there that do manage to stay, they work very, very hard, and I appreciate everything they do. But now, as for other people coming in, it's hard for them to find homes. They're driving in from Knoxville and Asheville, and they provide the services that we need in the casino, and that's what really, pushes back towards our per capita. But looking at the programs, and I think better streamlining the process with the long form, from surveying to infrastructure to actually putting, bricks on the ground, I think we can speed that up a lot with the right approach.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I think our first and foremost is our housing for our families in Cherokee, Snowbird, and all the surrounding communities. We have a lot of young families that do not have homes, and a lot of them have property that surveying has been a problem. I know that we have a backlog of 2 years, and if there's any way that we could get property surveyed out and get our younger people into homes and get them homes built, I feel that is first and foremost priority, is getting homes for our people. This workforce housing, I'm all in favor of getting apartments. If we could build apartments on the drive, find property for it, and that way our people could come in and work, but they'd only be in an apartment. But first and foremost, like I said, is finding homes for young families.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute. And Adam, 1 minute. And Bucky. Okay. We will now read the community questions that have been submitted tonight. First question goes to Adam. Since no formal census has taken place in more than 10 years, how does the tribe determine equal representation in tribal elections, since community populations have not been used to assign weights to tribal council seats? What is the status of the tribal census that is mandated by Section 19 of the governing document of EBCI?
I know that's an issue that we've discussed, and we've actually pushed to try to get a census done. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but we just couldn't find the people to actually go out and conduct this. I think out of 120 or 30 some individuals that were supposed to conduct this census, we were only getting 30 to 50 volunteers, which wasn't enough to carry out this type of action. So one of the things that the tribe's looking at doing is the federal census is getting ready to start, and that's a way that we can kind of, piggyback per se, and getting our census done correctly so that we can come up with the true number. Because right now we basically have to go off the one, and I don't know if it was from 2001 or which one it was, but that's the last number that we have. And I know that we have housing divisions that have grown in certain communities, so there is a shift of population in certain communities, so the number may be different. We don't know, like I said, but just looking at it, and as fast as our population has grown over the years, I think that's one of the things that, you know, the numbers would change, but we're just trying to find an accurate and a more, I guess, a better process to conducting a census, because like I said, the tribe actually passed legislation to conduct one, but we just didn't get the volunteers for conducting it, and so that's kind of where we're at now.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
I would say that he's pretty right on this. We'd have to basically have a census to have a census, and that's get every community involved. And you know, you got several communities out there that I don't think they're in favor of having a census, and I believe that it all needs to come to that we definitely need one. Our communities we're going outside the 6 community rim, and we you know we'll see the need that we do need a census done.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
I think it's very important to have a census. I think it should be done periodically. And if we can't find volunteers to do the census for us, then maybe we should find a contractual way of doing it through a contractual company. We seem to find them to do little things for us in other aspects, you know, audits, things like that. We can contractually find someone to do an audit for us, you know, so we can do a census. And it's important because a lot of the people that were on the lists given to us through this voting package from the election board, those addresses were no longer valid. People had already moved or relocated altogether. So I don't know how old those voting lists were that the election board handed out, but a lot of them, they're no good to us because you can send a mailer out to it, but those people don't live there anymore, so how are we going to reach them? You know, the only way I thought of maybe getting in touch with those people is through the finance department, because I'm sure that the finance department has an accurate address for those enrolled members that receive checks. However, that's a process you have to go through there, and I don't know what it would take to get somebody to make a move on that, but, you know, we're left here with wrong addresses on voters, you know, the census, how many people are we missing? You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, 1 minute.
Thank you. I just want to touch on a few things. One being that the census that the tribe was trying to conduct was paid for positions, so each of these individuals that would have been conducting the census would have been compensated. And the second piece is, and I need to verify this, was the list that are generated for the voters comes from the enrollment department. And so that's a lot of times that's where our finance division gets their list, so they can issue out per capita distribution. And so, like I said, I'm going to touch base on that, but I'm pretty sure that's where it comes from. All the lists are generated from our enrollment department.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute. And Sherry, 1 minute. All right. Next question goes to Bucky. Should the Board of Elections and other EBCI boards be elected? Why or why not?
I would, yes, I think they should. I think they should. That gives, it's kind of spreads it around and gives everybody a chance to be on the board.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Well, yes, I guess it would be better if they were elected, because there are often differences in people always look back towards, oh, well, that's an appointed job, so they're going to help somebody else, which, you know, normally isn't the case, but people have those suspicions, so maybe an election would be better to serve people.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. I know down in Snowbird and Cherokee County, we actually do conduct elections for our election board representatives. I think each of the people that step forward and want to put their time forth into this, but the way we do ours is we do it through community first, and then it comes before council with our names, and then the council votes on it. So, I mean, they are elected through the community, and I don't know how the other communities do it, but that's how we do it down in Snowbird and Cherokee County.
Thank you, Adam. 1 minute, Bucky, and Sherry, and Adam. All right, next question goes to Sherry. This is, if a council representative breaks a law, due to their oath of office, should they be investigated and suspended until cleared?
Well, it would all depend on what the allegations were. I mean, you can't go ahead and convict and punish someone if the allegations aren't proven and valid. So my thoughts would be, you know, it would all depend on what they were being called for, and we'd go from there. But I don't think an automatic suspension for something, because we've been finding out recently that a lot of these little things that are tidbits that are added into these documents have adverse effects on a lot of people in our tribe, especially candidates, and that seems to be when they come to the surface, is in election years. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right, thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. If a council representative breaks a law due to their oath of office, should they be investigated and suspended until cleared?
Okay, I was just making sure it didn't say elected official.
Sure.
And you said council member.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's processes already in place for this. We have the code to fall back on, as well as the code of ethics. Depending on, I guess, the accusation, it would depend. I mean, it could be something as small as the one that refers to not showing up for a meeting, to something that has something of a fraud or abuse. I think depending on that, I believe under council that we have a legislative council, and the chairmans would actually have the opportunity to pursue that, and you have the internal audit department. So there's a process to making sure that elected officials, well, council members in this case, are audited. So depending on the scenario, I think that needs to be pushed at the forefront first, because you don't want to just suspend somebody based on hearsay or an accusation. You want to have some type of hard proof that such bad conduct is going on.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Can I get you to read that question again? I'm
Absolutely.
trying to put it in perspective.
That's all right. If a council representative breaks a law due to their oath of office, should they be investigated and suspended until cleared?
Yes, I think so, because now we have the ethics committee, and I think, they can investigate it. There's due process that could be, it has to be there. And, but I think our ethics committee, we have that in place now. And, I don't know of anybody that's done that yet, but, we like to see that practiced and see how our ethics committee that we have set up, how it's going to handle it.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute follow-up. Adam and Bucky. All right. Next question goes to Adam. Adam, how will you promote Cherokee history and language?
Good question, because I actually have a lot of legislation that's came through to better promote the Cherokee language and our history and culture, from added incentives to second language learners. Other things I think we need to expand on is providing our KPEP with more language. And I know that we're down to a certain percentage of fluent speakers. And if you ever talk to a fluent speaker, they'll tell you that they're not a fluent speaker, that's just the first language that they learned. But a lot of them I've talked to, because there's so many words that a lot of them that haven't heard in a long time, they just don't remember, or other things. And it's unfortunate. My father was a fluent speaker, but it was never really taught around my home growing up, because he didn't really want to confuse us with my mom being non-enrolled. But when we were at my grandmother's, and a lot of that. So I carry a lot of that with me. On my dad's side, to wanting to push for more things for our community and the tribe. But I think some of the ways that would better help enhance our education on the language, and also history and culture, is pushing it more through grants or through the tribe, to allow kids more opportunity, not just to hear it at school, but to also hear it at home. So I think there's other ways that we can pursue this, in making it to where these children will be more successful in learning the language, even the adults. Because if you have a family that has non-speakers totally, then if the kids are learning, they're still not hearing it at home. So I think there needs to be opportunity for the parents to be able to, stress that like any other educational piece. They may learn math or English in high school or school, but I think through the Cherokee language, I think that needs to be something that the tribe needs to push more on the forefront, is trying to get that from babies all the way up to as far as we can go to provide those opportunities for our enrolled members.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I support any of the language, any classes at any age level, whether it be culture, as far as cooking or any of that, any of those, that need, if we have to have programs, wherever we have to have them in our communities, wherever. And I fully support that. Also, I support economic development. I think that, you can look on TV sometimes, you can see down in Atlanta at the Braves game, you'll see Harris, but I'd like for our name, the Cherokee name, to be added to that. And, and what I mean by economic development is put our name out there a little more. We've got something to sell here in Cherokee. We've got two casinos that they can come visit. I think it just needs to be, the economic development needs to be a little bit higher.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
I think there's a lot of ways we can implement the language. I used to be a fluent speaker as a child, and as I grew and was around it less and less, I've forgotten a lot of it. However, when I did try to attend language classes or language gatherings, they weren't very inclusive. I remember being at one in my community, and they were handing out little trinkets to the language speakers. And I was told as I was walking in, okay, I'll get you one of those. I was invited to this. And as I reached for it, one of the people that were having the get-together said, oh, no, those are just for the language speakers. That wasn't a very inclusive, welcoming way to come into our community and offer whatever it was, It makes you feel like you're not being included in it. Yeah, I don't speak it as well as I did when I was a child, but I do speak it. And I teach my grandchildren everything I do. I taught my son, I teach my daughter what I know. So I think anybody, and it shouldn't have to be one designated person. We tried to have little get-togethers in Snowbird Library, and we're told we could not do that unless one of the designated speakers were there to oversee the little class. And it was just a get-together for some of our youth that wanted to familiarize themselves with it. It wasn't an official class, but that made them, instead of being inclusive to it, it made them feel like they were being repelled from it, There are different ways that we can implement this language into our communities and our tribe, but the language belongs to every enrolled member in this tribe. Whether you can speak it or not, it still belongs to you. And if you want to use it, you should be able to use it. You shouldn't have to wait for some designated person to come down there and say, okay, I can let you speak that sentence there in Cherokee. That's not how it's supposed to be. We've got to be more welcoming and get our children started as young people speaking it. And if the parents can't speak it, let's get the parents in there with the kids. And let's have a big class, be more inclusive. And I'm sure we'll get more participants. But if you make them feel slighted, then they won't attend.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam, 1 minute follow-up?
Yes, I just wanted to add one more thing to this. One of the ideas, while I got the platform here, to better pitch our culture and our language would, we have the outdoor drama that only lasts so many months a year. And, this could be another idea for economic development. But do a dinner show, an indoor dinner show, something that goes year-round, and change up the different storylines, but also include our language within the show itself, so that our own enrolled members that understand the language can have a true part, within it and an understanding of it, as well as promoting it out there to the public. So the same way, they do in other countries, I think that would be a great idea, so that they can get the traditional foods as well as get the language, so that they can feel the full impact of who we really are.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky? And Sherry. All right, next question is Bucky's. If a non-enrolled member encroaches on the land of a tribal member, What action do you feel tribal government should take to remedy the situation? Want me to repeat it? If a non-enrolled member encroaches on the land of a tribal member, what action do you feel tribal government should take to remedy the situation?
I think that first, if he's not wanted, he ought to be asked to leave. And you know, if the second phase of that, if he don't leave, then the law's called, and you know there can be different phases of it. But we just the other day we had our first banishment, and we had a. I'm not going to go into full detail on this, but we had our first banishment, and it was, you know, somebody that had a history of things. And I'm glad our tribe, it does have laws for that. And like I said, it went to the furthest extreme, and the law was carried out by the tribe. So I support that.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Well, back in the 1800s, and they caught an Indian on white land, we all know what happened to us. So, you know, as far as I think if a non-enrolled member is encroaching on Indian banned land, the Indian tribe has the responsibility to take action, whether it be through court, whether it be through county affairs or state affairs. They should take action on this to protect our enrolled members to keep their land. That's what the tribe's for, is to protect our enrolled members. And the land issues are always very complicated and complex. But when it's something as simple as a non-enrolled member is encroaching on Indian land, that's unacceptable. And we have laws and courts for this. And those should be implemented to help that enrolled member to reclaim their land. That's the way I see it.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. These issues, I believe that this is the part of where the tribe needs to strengthen its laws at the federal level. When you have a non-enrolled member that's encroaching, there's always a jurisdictional piece of who's going to try it. The only things we can try over here are, and the state has recently recognized, non-enrolled members that trespass on the boundary or are banished on the boundary, then it's considered a federal offense. So working with the state and using our MOAs and MOUs to try to, I guess, try these individuals or just to charge them with something. I know that that's what our police department is supposed to be there to enforce the laws of the tribe based on, you know, like if it's encroachment or if it's trespassing, then to me the federal government has a responsibility that they're supposed to, the land's held in trust by the federal government, so I think they have a responsibility in helping us enforce these laws through our court system or allowing the states to help us with charging individuals that totally abuse and disobey our sovereignty. So I think that's something that I believe this tribe needs to strengthen its laws on, and not just for DV, but also it needs to expand on other things such as trafficking and encroachment and other things, that happen here on the boundary, which there's a lot of gray area with. So I think that the tribe as a whole needs to push to try to find more strength within the federal and the state law systems to help better protect our own tribal sovereignty and our laws.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think our court system needs to step in and be more involved in this. And when you have encroachment, and I just feel some issues is not taken all the way to our courts, but I feel that our courts need to handle these.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, any additional? And Adam, any additional? Okay. Next question is Sherry's. Sherry, what is your plan to get broadband into all EBCI communities for residential use? Okay. What is your plan to get broadband into all EBCI communities for residential use?
Okay, a couple years ago, some people from the tribe came to our community and were pitching this. Oh, let's get this fiber optic run, and we'll be able to profit from it. We'll be able to gain internet, phone service, TV service. I mean, we were promised everything if we went along with it. Well, we did, and we're still sitting here 2 years later waiting to be hooked up to it. It's been run by our house for 2 years, and we have no way to hook into it until those people come along and hook it up to the homes. That's another form of income and diversification for our tribe. You know, if they get all these customers hooked up into that fiber optic, you know, that's some type of income from each member. You know, it's just sitting there idly, and we're not getting to use it. It runs all the way to the rehab center at the end of Snowbird, and it was run for them, but to use it up there. However, it's ran by all our properties all the way up through there, but none of us have access to it. So, you know, I feel like that should be one of the first things we tackle. It's there, available. Let's hook into it. Let's get it available for our people to be hooked up to. I mean, what good does it do to have run it and spend all those millions of dollars if we don't even get to have access to those services?
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Yes, that's something that is still working. I've talked to the IT department, and the connection in Snowbird is happening because broadband had to put in a request for a capital improvement. Once the fiber from Balsam was laid, then broadband, but it doesn't cover all of Snowbird, and I'm only speaking to Snowbird for now. It doesn't cover the Mountain Creek area or the West Buffalo area. So that'll have to come through the same way that the fiber ran from Robbinsville all the way to the rehab center. It was through the Itswick budget that we the tribe put money into to push out to all the homes on the boundary. Now, my vision for broadband in Balsam is a lot bigger than just our members. I think it's a service. We have a huge opportunity with, to me, Frontier is not the greatest carrier in the area. I mean, I like Verizon better. They just seem like their service techs were better, their service was better. And so the tribe has a huge opportunity that they could be a huge utility here in the region by providing, you know, faster internet service. A lot of times if you go to any of these tribal buildings or some of the ones out our way, I mean, the speeds are so fast, and I think it would help the youth too, because a lot of their learning comes from the computers nowadays. So they don't hardly ever send books home. A lot of it comes home with computers. So down our way, we have a lot of families that go to McDonald's or the nearest Wi-Fi so they can actually get online and get some of the information they need, or the library. But like I said, sometimes that's down. But I think enhancing the broadband to all the homes on the boundary is a true goal of the tribe right now. But like I said, there's still some places that aren't going to be reached just yet. But as for, you know, we all live on the Massey Branch Road, and the fiber runs up that way. And so here within probably the next year, we'll all be tied in, as well as the new ODAS system, which is going to provide better cell phone services the way it does up here. Now, there's going to be some bumps in the road here and there, but I think overall the tribe's moving forward to try to, you know, get that service out to our people. And then once our people are satisfied with it, and by word of mouth or advertisement, we can start expanding on broadband and making it into a true utility or a true carrier.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Yeah, I think it's diversification, and I see that, you know, whatever the tribe can do moving forward, IT kind of, you know, there, like I said, there is some, or Adam said there's some bumps in the road on this, and you know, whether it be financial or whatever, but I feel like we've had it in the ground. It's been, and you know, we've got it this far, and we're almost over the hill of it, and but it is a diversification for us, and I'd like to see it, you know, come to pass.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry, 1 minute on the follow-up. Adam and Bucky. I appreciate your time and your patience. This last question, Adam, and it's to you. How come we don't have different stores such as Gatlinburg instead of moccasins made in Korea, etc.? Homemade stuff sold in our stores with a variety of things.
I think we do in some sense, but we don't. So I guess it's a two-part answer. First part being that we do have shops that are separate from just a normal craft store that has different materials that are sold for tourism attractions. I think a lot of that has worked in the past, but I know our local community wants more. They want something like outlet options or different types of services that could be provided. So, and I agree with it. I think that if we have more entrepreneurs that get out there and want to create such a venue to allow our enrolled members to keep the money on the boundary is one of the things that would truly help, I think, for economic development, because we spend a lot of money off the boundary when it comes to per cap time or, just payroll checks and everything. But I know that with the new expansion on the casino, we're working with a few more stores that are going to come to Cherokee that's going to offer a lot of other different options, such as retail, for example, some more eateries, from high-end to burgers. And then you have other things for shopping, such as shoes and apparel. A lot of those options are going to be added into the commercial side on the frontage of where the casino is going to be. So the tribe as a whole is working with TCG and other partners to bring more options to the boundary. But I'm just speaking in general up here in Cherokee, so that when the tourists, and that's another amenity that I believe that should be added here on the boundary, because that's another part of the reasons why a lot of them leave and they stay for a week in Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, but when they come to Cherokee, they only stay in 3 to 4 days. So if it's a stay and play package through the golf course or the casino, or like I said, there's only so many things that a person can do during the peak season in Cherokee. So I think other attractions that can provide these avenues for families to stay and enjoy, but those opportunities are coming online, and that's something that us as a council and a tribe will be happy to present to the people once we get more finalized on the whole expansion at the casino.
Thank you, Adam. Becky? Sure enough. How come we don't have different stores such as Gatlinburg instead of moccasins made in Korea, etc.? Homemade stuff sold in our stores with a variety of things.
Okay, down in Snowbird, we've got, and this guy's behind us. He lives right behind me, and I feel like we just don't have as many craftsmen like we used to. And some of them, I talked with a gentleman yesterday about some baskets, and it's very hard to find basket makers down our way. But got a guy that is right behind me, and I feel like we're just limited on craftspeople. And plus, like you said, retail's coming in. Retail is looking, a lot of people are looking, Nike shoes compared to moccasins. Some of the kids, we've kind of got to, get our kids back to, a lot of the craft stuff, so, as far as moccasins and that type of nature. But, and I think it's, on holidays or any other time, like you said, people would come in here and they'd shop. They'd shop more if they knew there was more crafts, homemade crafts anyway.
Thank you, Becky. Sherry?
When I was growing up, we used to get these big, giant crates full of crafts from the Cherokees. And my family and all of us would participate. We'd assemble these crafts and send them back to the Cherokees, and we got like a supplemental income for doing that. But it made us all crafters because we were involved in that. So I think something like that would bring a lot of our crafters back out. We do have a lot of crafters, but they don't make much off their crafts anymore. They ended up having to sell them to a place here in Cherokee for a third of what they can usually sell them for. And so they feel like they're not really benefiting off making their crafts, so a lot of them have stopped. However, if we turned it around and started letting them benefit from their own crafts and not making them be sold at a certain place and getting a certain amount out of them, then these crafters will come back out of the woodwork and they'll be successful again. But in my family alone, we had 8 to 10 crafters, and we did everything from make moccasins to those little teepees. My little cousin used to like to smell the glue that we glued the little guy to the teepee with. I can remember it like it was yesterday, but it was a fun activity for our whole family to be involved in. And I don't know why the Cherokees here in Cherokee shut down the big plant, because that was supplemental income for those low community or low income communities. You know, they sent those big crates down for us to assemble for them. I mean, it helped us. It helped a whole bunch of people. So, you know, I think maybe opening that back up, because the Cherokees, we have our own unique crafts. We have our own unique ways of making moccasins, you know, and the people that come in here, the tourists, they want something made by a native from here. They don't want to look and see something made from Minnetonka, Minnesota. You know, they want to see moccasins made by Cherokees. That used to make me proud. My uncle worked down here, Roger Teestesky, Latch. He was a guard that lived on the premises. But he brought me 2 or 3 pairs of moccasins a year, and those were the most exciting days I can remember, as having that new pair of moccasins that said made by the Cherokees. So it meant a lot to me, and it can mean a lot again. We've just got to put a little work into it.
Thank you, Sherry. 1 minute follow-up, Adam. And Bucky, anything else, Sherry? All right, and I apologize. I told you that was the last question, but I do need to get one more in for the public. And Bucky, you'll feel this one first. Solicare is in dire need of a new facility. Where is that on your priority list? And if it's not your first priority, why isn't it? Please explain.
I know the Solid Care building has been there for a while, and we are increasing in numbers, and our elders is, you know, that's our history. That's who we are, who we are, and I feel like, you know, we try to take care of them as best that we can. And as far as a new facility, I think that you know, if the building has been there a while, and if something is you know, the building's old and, you know, falling, well, then they need a new structure. And I'm all for, you know, whatever, you know, that'll come, make their day a little easier, make their stay a little easier, whatever they need. I'm all for it.
Thank you, Becky. Sherry?
Of course, I think we should provide Solid Care with a new facility if they need it. I also know that in Tamatla, they've been requesting a assisted living facility for quite a few years. So, you know, and they're way far away from this part of the tribe, the main boundary. That's a lot of our problems and complications is we live so far away, we're so isolated from the main boundary. So a lot of things that happen up here, we don't get to until they're, you know, expended already. But I feel like, yes, we should provide care centers for our elderly because they are where we come from. And if we can't honor them, then we're not honoring ourselves.
Thank you, Sherry. Adam?
Thank you. Yes, I believe that Solid Care is on top priority. And Sherry spoke to something that a feasibility study was conducted in 2015 for an assisted living. I think that we do need to expand on our care for our seniors. I think a lot of times that when people are looking to go and work in these facilities, they look at some of the newer and, you know, more up-to-date things to go and work for, because a lot of them, you know, they may retire there. But taking care of our seniors is a true priority of mine. So anytime the budget cycle comes through, if it's including more services for the seniors or if it's working on newer facilities for them, I think it should be everyone's top priority because, like I said, I believe in taking care of those who took care of us. So in looking at that, like I said, I don't think it's just Solid Care with a new facility. I believe we need to expand on our Solid Manor up here in Cherokee so that our individuals aren't having to go off the boundary for assisted living. I think that we can provide that service. I know the hospital has taken over Solid Care, so that's something that we need to pursue them. I think it would be better that if a new facility were built, that it would be built in closer vicinity to the hospital so that they don't have to come plumb across the Qualla boundary to get to the hospital for whatever service need they need. I think there should be some type of campus life that, you know, they could have close to the hospital itself. So some of the property that we have that's close to the hospital, I think that's probably where the new facility, Solid Care, should be.
Thank you, Adam. Becky, additional follow-up, and Sherry and Adam. All right. That takes care of all of tonight's questions. The candidates will now have up to 5 minutes each to make closing statements, and Adam, you're first.
Closing statements. The only thing I wanted to really mention, and it's a lot of the stuff that I basically have ran on the last 5 terms, is an acronym that I use a lot, and it's a leadership acronym that I picked up when I was in the service. And it's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And each one of those traits have basically been embedded in me through my time in the military. 14 years I spent there has really done wonders for me, and it's really been a joy for me to be able to take my family to different places while I was in. I think it's paid off dividends in the long run for me running and being an elected official for as long as I have. I had one of the best mentors a person could have in my dad, who was also taught by our grandma, Maggie, for all the different things. So a lot of the traits that I learned growing up and carried on to the military have basically done full circle and came back here to serving the people of this tribe. So with those traits and with the family that supports me and everything I've done, from going back to school and getting my 4-year degree, to jumping out of airplanes, to being a chairman of tribal council, it's good to have that base and support system that really helps. And I truly commend each individual that steps forward and wants to run for tribal office. And once they're in the seat, then they actually see the full aspect that goes along with being an elected official. It's not everything that you see on TV, and it's not everything that you hear out there on the street. There's a lot of countless hours that go into being a public official, from selfless service to working with free labor groups to taking salt and roads. I mean, you see a lot of elected officials out there that do a lot in the communities, and I commend each and every person that steps forward to wanting to be that. And I think it's a true honor that being a service member and seeing the things that go on in other parts of the world, that we are truly blessed here on the boundary. And with the right type of leadership, I think that we can continue moving forward with the opportunities and with the knowledge that we carry on. I think that our generations are going to move forward with the educated minds that are growing up. There's probably going to start being some younger people that's going to put their names in the hat. That's going to be truly diverse for this tribe. And the last thing I want to leave everybody with is the things that I have learned over the years, from growing up to the military to the time that I've had in office and been fortunate enough to represent the Snowbird and Cherokee County communities, is the sense of love that that's been provided. And I think that this tribe needs a lot more of it. I know there's a lot of threats. I mean, you turn on the news and it's nothing but negative. But if you can help a person and you can truly impact a child's life or an individual's life, I think to me that's the purpose of being an elected official, and selfless service and providing, putting everybody else's needs before your own. But like I said, never forgetting who we are and where we came from either. Like I said, this tribe's went through a lot of atrocities dealing with the federal government, and we've survived, and we're still here, so we're survivors. So the last piece I want to leave everyone with is, when you go to the polls, exercise your right to vote. I mean, that's a true honor to have. Like, there's a lot of people in this world that don't have that. But go and vote. And I don't care if you vote for me or who you vote for, but definitely go vote. Because like I said, there's plenty of people that have died and gave the ultimate sacrifice in this country to allow these rights for every individual that can vote. So when you go and select a candidate for our office, tribal council, I want you to evaluate who the candidates are. And these candidates that you're evaluating are the ones that's going to be standing in front of governors, General Assembly in Raleigh, Congress people in Washington, other tribal leaders. So as a tribal member, who do you want representing you at those levels? And I think that should be the last thing that's on their mind as they go to the polls. So as always, like I said, God bless the Eastern Band Cherokee Indians. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Bucky?
Again, I want to say I thank you for the privilege to be here this evening. I want to thank each of you that's in the audience this evening. My closing comments, I want to say what an honor it's been for me. For the past 2 years, it's been, I'm a first timer in council. I've enjoyed being a legislator, but more so is being a civil servant to my community. And that is, I've been with the Cherokee County and Snowbird. And the funnest part for me has been is, you know, we're a long ways from the reservation here, or as far as that part of the reservation. And sometimes we don't get information down there just as quick as it would here. And transparency has been my biggest platform. And I want to say that this upcoming time is you don't want to be transparent to both communities, but also be transparent to even whatever's available out here. And I want to support things that will support each and every member of this tribe. As a whole body, want to, you know, go along with and what for the betterment of this tribe. And but I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to the next 2 years if elected. And you know, I got in this because I wanted to help people. And I feel like in Snowbird, I've been involved in the community club. The community club's a great asset. I enjoy working with a lot of people. Some of our members are here this evening. Appreciate them for coming. And you know, working in two communities, that just makes it even double duty, but it helps you be right. And I'm a people person. I like being around people. I like fellowshipping with them, whether it's visiting them, whether it's just talking on the phone with them. But trying to help them is that makes my day. If I can help somebody with, you know, if they need need some information that can help them out up here, try to get that to them. And I challenge myself to that. And I feel like as a servant and working for the people, that's my job to do it. And but I appreciate Snowbird and Cherokee County, and again, I appreciate you for having us and listening to our views. And like Adam said, go to the polls and encourage our young people. Encourage them to get in politics. You know, it ain't all just fussing and fighting and this and that and other. But no, this is their government. This is their money that we deal with each and every day. And a lot of things that what we bring into the tribe here, and we've always said it, we're looking out for 7 generations. And that's what, you know, we got to look on down the road for our children, our great-grandchildren, and so on. And, you know, but I appreciate this tribe. And like I said, God bless the Eastern Band, and I thank you again for the privilege of being here.
Thank you, Bucky. Sherry?
Well, I've been an advocate for my community since the late 60s, early 70s. I've attended most community meetings. I advocate for people that don't want to stand up and speak for themselves because they don't like the confrontational arena. So, you know, I've stood up and spoke for a lot of my people in my community because they didn't feel they could. So this is just more, I'm doing it at an official capacity now. I've waited for someone in my community for years and years to step up and get some things going that I had ideas on, but it never came to fruition, so I'm gonna try and get in here and play the field myself and see how I can make it work. I have a lot of great ideas to present to the council, and hopefully we can get a lot of this stuff done. It's going to feel like bombardment in the beginning, but I'm sure it'll all ease up as we go along. But everyone that goes to vote polls gets 2 votes. Let's use our 2 votes. A lot of times, so many are just instructed to do one-shots. Oh, just go in there and do one shot and vote for me. That's not what our voting allows us, 2 votes. Let's go in and take advantage of both votes and make it our most important vote, because the people we put in there are the people representing us for the next 2 years. And we have to try to make change in a situation we're in at the cusp of maybe losing a lot of revenue to other casinos, gaming casinos. But I have a lot of ideas. If we can just turn about face that we can get going, then the tribe won't be so dependent on the casino revenues, because there are a lot of other ways of getting this revenue if we'll just take those chances. And sometimes you have to take a chance in order to be successful. And so I'm going to ask everyone, take a chance on me and give me your second vote, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Ms. Sherry Smoker, Mr. Adam Wachacha, Mr. Bucky Brown, we thank you so much for being here. We would like to once again thank the candidates for their participation and willingness to serve. We encourage all tribal members, regardless of who you vote for, to make your voice heard in the 2019 Tribal Council elections. Exercise your right to vote. Thank you, everyone.